547 hours. The Caribbean Sea. The morning haze hung thick over the water like a funeral shroud when the first radar alarm screamed across the George H.W. Bush. 6 Venezuelan Su-30 Mk2 flankers had just punched through Venezuelan airspace at 40,000 feet. Afterburners lit, climbing hard and fast. Target bearing direct intercept course with the carrier strike group. This wasn't a patrol. This wasn't posturing. The electronic warfare signatures were unmistakable. Search radars active, fire control systems warming up, missile pylons loaded with Russian-made Kh-31 anti-ship missiles. Venezuela had just authorized an aggressive combat maneuver against the most powerful warship in the Western Hemisphere. 4,000 American sailors. 90 combat aircraft. $100 billion of nuclear-powered American resolve sitting in international waters. And exactly 8 minutes until potential weapons release range. But as the Venezuelan pilots armed their targeting systems and prepared to execute what Caracas believed would be a propaganda victory heard around the world, they had no idea they had just triggered a response protocol so swift, so coordinated, so overwhelming that the next 11 minutes would redefine the balance of power in the entire region. You will regret missing the twist that's about to flip this entire engagement upside down. Because in the skies over the Caribbean, Venezuela just made a move they can never take back. And NATO's answer was already airborne before Caracas even finished celebrating. Let's rewind 72 hours. At exactly 0300 hours Eastern Time, inside the heavily guarded command center at Fort Tiuna in Caracas, Venezuelan military leadership stood before their inner circle and made a decision that would either cement their strategic position or destroy their air force. They ordered Operation Sovereign Thunder, a coordinated air demonstration designed to force the United States Carrier Strike Group to alter course and leave what Venezuela claimed were disputed economic waters. The plan was audacious, reckless, and heavily influenced by Russian military advisors who had been embedded in Caracas since 2019. Venezuela would deploy its elite squadron of Su-30 Mk2 fighters, 12 jets total, Russian-built, equipped with advanced avionics and anti-ship cruise missiles capable of hitting targets 120 kilometers away. The mission: fly an aggressive intercept pattern, lock fire control radars onto the American carrier, force a tactical retreat, and broadcast the footage to every anti-American government on the planet. To Venezuela's military command, this was strategic genius, a low-cost, high-reward psychological operation that would humiliate Washington without actually firing a shot. To the Pentagon, this was a red line wrapped in a death wish. The George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group had been operating in the Caribbean as part of Operation Martillo, a multinational counter-narcotics and maritime security mission. The flotilla included the guided missile cruiser Normandy, 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, a fast-attack submarine, and a full air wing of 60 FA-18E Super Hornets, E-18G Growlers, and E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft. But what Venezuela didn't know, what Moscow's advisors failed to mention, was that this carrier strike group wasn't alone. NATO had been running joint exercises just 400 nautical miles north. The British Royal Navy's Queen Elizabeth, the French Charles de Gaulle, and Spanish F-100 class frigates were all within rapid response distance, and every single ship in the region was linked through the NATO integrated air and missile defense system, a digital god brain that turned independent warships into a single unified organism. The board was set, the trap was armed, and Venezuela was about to walk straight into it. At 0545 hours, the 6 Su-30 flankers roared off the runway at Francisco de Miranda Air Base near Caracas. Pilots strapped in, helmets locked, mission briefing clear, penetrate to within 80 kilometers of the American carrier, achieve radar lock, hold for 30 seconds, then break off and return to base. Simple. Clean. Provocative. The Venezuelan air controller's voice crackled through the radio. Jaguar flight. You are cleared hot. Execute Sovereign Thunder. Make the Yankees blink. The formation climbed aggressively, pushed through 30,000 feet, then leveled at 40,000, high enough to maximize radar range, low enough to stay within their operational envelope. At 00:0547 hours, the Combat Information Center aboard the George H.W. Bush exploded into controlled chaos. Track. 6 hostile aircraft inbound, bearing 190, range 140 miles, altitude 40,000 feet, speed 600 knots and accelerating. The tactical action officer didn't hesitate. Sound General Quarters. Launch the Alert 5. Spin up Aegis. Get me a firing solution on all 6 targets. Within 90 seconds, 2 FA-18E Super Hornets were catapulted off the deck, afterburners screaming as they climbed toward the incoming threat. But this wasn't going to be a traditional dogfight. This was going to be a demonstration in networked warfare that would leave Caracas speechless. At 0549 hours, the Venezuelan lead pilot activated his N001VE fire control radar. The system locked onto the massive thermal and radar signature of the American carrier. His heads-up display flashed green. Target acquired. Jaguar lead to all units. We have radar lock on primary target. Holding pattern. Stand by for... He never finished the sentence. Because at that exact moment, 380 miles to the north, something extraordinary happened. The HMS Queen Elizabeth, steaming at flank speed, launched 4 F-35B Lightning II stealth fighters. These weren't standard aircraft. These were 5th-generation networked kill vehicles invisible to Venezuelan radar, linked directly to American Aegis systems, and carrying AIM-120D AMRAAM missiles with a range exceeding 100 miles. Simultaneously, the French carrier Charles de Gaulle launched 2 Rafale M fighters equipped with B-Day Meteor missiles, the longest-range air-to-air weapons in NATO's arsenal. And the Spanish frigate Lávaro de Baz activated its Aegis-equivalent combat system, feeding targeting data directly into the Link 16 network that connected every NATO warship within 500 miles. Venezuela thought they were facing one carrier. They had just walked into a trap involving 3 carrier strike groups, 18 surface combatants, and over 120 combat aircraft. The Venezuelan pilots had no idea. Their radar screens showed only the American carrier and the 2 Super Hornets climbing to meet them. Everything else was invisible, silent, waiting. At 0551 hours, the first Super Hornet pilot keyed his radio. His voice was calm, professional, deadly. Venezuelan aircraft, this is United States Navy Alpha 71. You are operating in a hostile manner in international airspace. Disengage your fire control radars immediately and alter course to bearing 180. This is your only warning. The Venezuelan flight leader hesitated. His orders were clear. Hold the lock. Force the Americans to blink first. But something felt wrong. His radar warning receiver was quiet. Too quiet. No missile locks. No targeting radars. Just silence. That silence was the trap. At 0552 hours, the E-2D Hawkeye circling at 25,000 feet transmitted a single encrypted burst to every NATO asset in the region. The message was simple. Execute Rapid Guardian. Rapid Guardian wasn't a contingency plan. It was a live fire coordination protocol designed to demonstrate overwhelming force without actually shooting. It was a message written in radar locks, missile trajectories, and the sudden realization that you are not the hunter. You are the prey. The British F-35s, invisible to Venezuelan radar, slid into position 60 miles behind the Su-30 formation. Their AN/APG-81 radars painted all 6 targets simultaneously. They didn't arm weapons. They simply fed the data into the network. The French Rafales climbed to 50,000 feet, achieving perfect firing geometry. Their RBE-2 ASA radars locked on. Meteor missiles remained in the bay, but the targeting solutions were calculated, refined, and transmitted. The Spanish Aegis frigate achieved lock with SM-2 surface-to-air missiles. Range, 90 miles. Time to impact if launched, 4 minutes. And the American Super Hornets armed their aim, 120D missiles. Not to fire, but to let the Venezuelan pilots know they were already dead. At 0553 hours, every radar warning receiver in the Venezuelan formation screamed to life simultaneously. Beep! 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 Missile lock. Multiple threats. From directions that shouldn't have aircraft. From ranges that shouldn't be possible. The Venezuelan flight leader's cockpit lit up like a Christmas tree. His threat display showed 12 simultaneous radar locks, 12 firing solutions, 12 kill trajectories. His voice cracked over the radio, Jaguar flight. We're spiked. Multiple locks from, Jesus Christ, they're everywhere. Break formation. Break. Break. But there was nowhere to break to. Every escape vector was covered. Every maneuver anticipated. The digital net had already closed. Then, at 0554 hours, the American Super Hornet pilot transmitted one final message. This time, his voice carried a different tone. Not threatening, not angry, just matter of fact. Venezuelan aircraft, you are currently being tracked by 18 NATO fighters, 6 surface combatants, and 1 attack submarine. You have been in our kill box for the last 3 minutes. Your radar signature, your weapons load, your fuel state, we know everything. If we wanted you dead, you would already be falling. He paused. Let the words sink in. This is not a threat. This is a professional courtesy. Disengage immediately and return to base. Next time, there will be no warning. The silence that followed was deafening. At 0555 hours, the Venezuelan flight leader did something that would cost him his career but save his life. He deactivated his fire control radar. He rolled his aircraft into a hard descending turn. And he transmitted the words no fighter pilot ever wants to say. Jaguar flight. Abort mission. Art B. Repeat. Return to base immediately. The formation scattered. Not tactically. Not professionally. They broke like prey fleeing a predator. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. As the Venezuelan fighters descended through 30,000 feet, desperately accelerating toward home, the American E-18G Growler that had been orbiting silently at 45,000 feet activated its ALK-249 next-generation jammer. This wasn't just electronic warfare. This was a digital scalpel. In a single burst, the Growler severed every data link between the Venezuelan fighters and their ground control. Communication channels dissolved into static. GP's navigation systems fed false coordinates. Even their identification friend or foe transponders were overridden. For exactly 90 seconds, the Venezuelan pilots flew blind. No radio, no navigation, no idea if they were heading toward safety or into the ocean. Then, just as suddenly, the jamming stopped. Systems rebooted. Communications returned. But the message had been delivered with surgical precision. We own your airspace. We own your communications. We own you. At Francisco de Miranda Air Base, the air traffic controller watched his radar screen in stunned horror as the 6 blips representing Venezuela's elite fighter squadron limped home. Formation broken, fuel burning critical, mission completely shattered. The Venezuelan Minister of Defense was woken at 0610 hours with a secure call from military command. The voice on the other end was shaking. Sir, we have a situation. Operation Sovereign Thunder has failed. Our pilots encountered overwhelming NATO response. We were outmatched. Completely. The defense minister's stomach dropped. Casualties? None, sir. They let us go. They could have shot us down. They had us locked for 3 full minutes. But they chose not to fire. That was the most humiliating part. Venezuela hadn't been defeated. They had been dismissed, like children playing with toy guns in a grown-up's war. At 0625 hours, the US George H.W. Bush transmitted a brief operational report to 5th Fleet Command. Venezuelan aggressive aircraft maneuver neutralized without weapons release. NATO coordination protocols executed flawlessly. Strike group remains on station. No further threats detected. The Pentagon didn't issue a press release. NATO didn't hold a press conference. There were no leaked videos. No propaganda victories. Just a quiet, professional demonstration that the rules of engagement in the modern era are no longer written by whoever has the most planes or the loudest rhetoric. They're written by whoever owns the network, whoever controls the information, whoever can see the entire chessboard while keeping the opponent blind. Venezuela deployed aggressive aircraft against a U.S. carrier, betting on Cold War logic that said numbers and surprise could force a retreat. What happened next wasn't a battle. It was a masterclass. NATO's response was instant, coordinated, overwhelming, and completely invisible until the moment it needed to be seen. The Venezuelan pilots returned to base with their aircraft intact, but their confidence shattered. Russian advisors quietly packed their bags. And Caracas learned a lesson that every military strategist should have already known. In the 21st century, you don't fight warships. You fight networks. And if you don't own the network, you've already lost. So here's the question that should terrify every regional power with delusions of grandeur. If NATO can coordinate 3 carrier strike groups, neutralize an entire fighter squadron, and execute precision electronic warfare across 400 nautical miles in under 8 minutes, all without firing a single shot, what happens when they decide diplomacy is over? The answer is simple. There is no battle. There is no fight. There is only the sudden, horrifying realization that you are not on the chessboard. You are a piece. And someone else is moving you. Are you proud of the silent warriors who maintain global order without making headlines? Do you believe NATO's technological supremacy is the ultimate deterrent against reckless aggression? Then hit that like button and type instant response in the comments below. Your support helps us bring you these real-world strategic breakdowns. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next time a regional power tests the limits, the response won't just be instant. It will be invisible, and you won't want to miss it.